The following program contains explicit American history. If you suffer from stupidity, Randall may not be right for you. Check with your revisionist historian.
50 years ago, Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Tragically, that speech has been co-opted by people who do not share the vision that he had. We'll take a look at that speech today and some of the crazy things coming out of this anniversary. Every time I look in the mirror, all these lines in my face getting clearer. The past is gone.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
Welcome to the program, friend. It was just over 50 years ago that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous I Have a Dream speech at the footsteps or the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. My family and I recently had the joy and the privilege of going to that very spot, and I discussed with some of the family members that were there what it all meant. And I have watched that speech many times, by the way, and it is without question one of the most profound rhetorical performances ever given, and its content was genius. I mean, his statement that I long for the day, I look for the day when my four children are judged not based on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character. Those lines are brilliant. They are true. Well, the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's speech was marred, shall I say, by people coming with their sometimes trite, sometimes fundamentally immoral agenda. We're talking, of course, people like Nancy Pelosi and Attorney General Eric Holder. And as I read some of the excerpts of news coverage or watched little clips of the speeches, I was sickened. I was truly sickened because what Dr. King was focusing on was so simple, so fundamental, so rudimentary, namely this, that we are all God's creation. No matter what the color of our skin, we are all the sons and daughters of God in the sense of Adam and Eve were the son and daughter of God, and we all come from them. And that we all therefore have the same fundamental human rights, and that we should not judge each other based upon the color of our skin, but on the content of our character, which, by the way, is shown how? By our words and our actions. The content of a person's character is displayed. It's not a mystery. You can watch someone after a while, and you can figure out who they are, and what they're all about, by what they say, or what they do, or what they fail to say and fail to do. So, as I listened and read and saw the stuff that people were bringing in, the little plugs they were giving, we're talking about women's reproductive rights, that's code language for killing your babies. Homosexual rights, transgender. I mean, Eric Holder was talking about the next great steps are going to have to involve the homosexual, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, this litany of behavior, okay? Litany of behavior issues. Immigration reform, gun violence, organized labor, education, student loan indebtedness. So I thought to myself, what if the speech were given today? All right, what would it sound like? Now, I'll use a Dr. King-like voice. Now, think of the great words of Dr. King. I want to use an Eric Holder voice, but I can't pull it off. It's too whiny for me. So imagine the great Dr. King being reduced to, I have a dream of a day when students will be able to go to college and get a student loan and then defraud their neighbor and not pay that loan back. I have a dream when those college students will be instructed in the ways of the transgender, homosexual, lesbian, and bisexual byways of their body. I have a dream when 50% of all black babies conceived in America will be killed in America's killing fields by abortion. I have a dream when sexual immorality will so have pervaded in the African American community that 2 out of every 3 babies will be born out of wedlock. I have a dream of the government breaking down doors like jackbooted thugs, taking away our Second Amendment right. I have a dream of the day when public education will get so bad that a child will not be able to read the label of a condom, but he will be able to use that condom. I have a dream of insanity so pervasive that the color of your skin will not matter a whit, and neither will the content of your character, because all things that are good will become evil. All things that are evil will become good. And we shall put light for darkness and darkness for light. I have a dream. It sounds like a nightmare.
Great Scott! The US dollar has the same trajectory as the meteorite that fell in Russia. One of my graduate students asked me, what is that trajectory? And I said, down, you blistering idiot. Down. A meteorite falls down.
My wife and I, for 5 years, have been grinding our own wheat and baking our own bread from scratch. Within 2 hours, you can have fresh wheat in your hand and then piping hot bread come out of the oven. The most nutritious and delicious bread you will ever have. And we do it for under $1 a loaf. Call Paula's Bread and find out about this grain mill and the mixer and how it can save you money and change your life. How would you like to be able to reach hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of potential customers with your product or your company or your web-based business? Well, you can do that right here on this show. Every single day, we get phone calls or letters or orders online from states all over the country where people are watching this television show. Right now, we are seen in 45 cities at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time every night, and then a rerun again at 12:30 midnight. You can reach them using this show at advertising rates that are so inexpensive, it would blow your mind. So, if you're interested, contact us at the phone number that you see on the screen or the email address, and we can talk about how you can grow your business and help support this show. Welcome back to the program, friend. I believe that xenophobia, that's the fear of things that are different. Fear of different cultures, fear of different skin colors. I believe that it's not a good thing. I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to say that bigotry, just flat out bigotry, I hate this racial group or this nationality. I hate African Americans. I hate Italians. Okay? I believe that that is fundamentally against the golden rule, love your neighbor as yourself. All right? Because we are all made in the image of God. We all come from one set of parents, Adam and Eve. Now, when the tragedy involving Trayvon Martin and Zimmerman happened, Obama weighed in. Obama weighed in more than once and said, on one occasion, that could have been me. On another occasion, he said, it could have been my son. Resist all temptations to make jokes at that point. Back on point. But now we've seen a lot in recent weeks, a lot of news stories popping up around the country, such as the horrible shooting of the Australian jogger Chris Lane, the beating death of the 88-year-old man, Shorty Belton, a World War II vet who was beaten to death. Now, both of these victims were white, and their assailants, their murderers, were African American. Why did Obama address the situation that happened with Trayvon Martin? And why has he said nothing about these horrific killings? In fact, one person asked one of the White House press secretaries about, I believe it was Shorty Belton, and said, we don't know anything about this. So one of the reasons is very simple, that they are trying to solidify their political base and use race as a means to divide and unite, all right? One of the reasons that xenophobia and bigotry are so powerful is because it makes an us-them. We are African Americans who are always living under the thumb and the heel of the white man who wants to keep us down. Never mind we're in the White House. Never mind Eric Holder is the Attorney General. So you've got the us, and then you've got the them, the bad guys who are trying to destroy the country, who are trying to take away our liberties, who are trying to get us back on the back of the bus or put us back on the plantation or whatever. So at that point, what Obama is showing is that it's not a matter of justice and sympathy merely, but it's a matter of continuing to stir up bigotry and xenophobia. I mean, Obama could have just as easily said of the murderers of Chris Lane or of Shorty Belton, that could have been me. Now that probably would have been inappropriate. So he would say, I did not grow up trained to kill people. I did not grow up trained to bring about that level of injustice. I want to use far more surgical precision in my pursuit of persecution and injustice. So I will support the Muslim Brotherhood while they kill Christians and burn churches in Egypt. And I will get Attorney General Eric Holder to come in and spy on people and look the other way when Black Panthers and other black thugs who are black, all right, are committing crimes against white people, and we'll keep dismissing that any of that has to do with race, and I'll have Eric Holder do my dirty work. And of course, you must have heard by now that one of the murderers said that I hate white people and that they wanted to kill him or something horrific. Of course, these are racially motivated crimes. And the president is not concerned about justice, clearly, because if he was, he would either comment on every tragic murder and issue regarding self-defense, or he would comment on none of them. So don't fall into the trap. Don't hate or love based upon the color of skin. Do it on the content of the character and on the actions and the deeds and the words of everyone involved. I'll be right back. You know a tree by its fruit.
Randall and I discovered a big hole in Arizona. Randall wanted to call it a big ditch, hole. Darn, I can't remember.
Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last.
What is the use of living if it be not to strive for noble causes and to make this muddled world a better place to live after we are gone. Sir Winston Churchill.
Welcome back. There are a lot of discussions going on right now on TV, on the radio, in the internet world, discussing the media bias. And basically it devolves around what is covered and how is it covered, right? Really, in the end, it boils down to that. What is being given airtime or print space, and what's the angle? And I want to paint a scenario for you for just a couple of minutes, and I don't want to offend anyone, and I have an agenda when I say this. So let me say up front that as a broadcaster, I knowingly come to this desk, to this camera, with an agenda. So let me paint a scenario that is, again, not meant to offend anyone, but to make you think, all right? The media are made up of people. People have a worldview, a prism through which they see things, or a looking glass through which they see things. A Marxist will look at something and see one thing. A capitalist will look at it and see another. And if there are reporters who are Marxists or capitalists, they will cover perhaps the same economic transaction with a very different bent. All right? So let me make a very simple illustration. Joseph Goebbels. All right, he was the Nazi minister of propaganda. Now, before anyone gets worked up about that, I want, and says, well, Germany didn't have a free press. Well, hold on. Joseph Goebbels was free. All right? He could do what he wanted. He had the liberty to say what he thought was good. And in America today, we have a ruling elite in the media. There are still men and women in the halls of power in New York City, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles. All right? Those are the three hinges, the three critical hinges of media in America. We have an elite that rules there regarding economic coverage, political coverage, and entertainment coverage. So, the question is this. What do the elite, whether it's Joseph Goebbels or our elite in New York, Washington, and LA, what do they decide is news? And then, what's the angle? So, did Joseph Goebbels talk about what was going on inside of the concentration camps? Did he give an honest and accurate rendition of how Jews were being treated? No. Why not? Because of his own narrative, his own worldview, his own agenda. So let's go to a simple corollary to prove my point. Abortion. The first question is it news? So every day in this nation, over 3,000 innocent babies are torn limb from limb, or poisoned to death, or burned to death in their mother's womb. That's news. That's genocide. But usually it's not covered. Why? Because the elite has chosen that it is not newsworthy. And the second thing is, what's the angle? So, when abortion does creep into the news, you'll see the media elite often berating the legislators in Texas or the legislators in North and South Dakota because they are trying to enslave women and take away a woman's fundamental right to control her own reproductive destiny. And the way they report it shows that they have an agenda regarding abortion. My simple advice to you is this: understand, when you watch, read, or listen to the news, there is an elite behind the screen, the great and powerful News Oz, who is deciding what is news and what the angle is in which it will be covered. I'll be right back. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes? and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. James Madison said, "A well-instructed people alone can be permanently a free people." Welcome back. My wife and I often joke that we would like to slip on the same banana peel together as a very old couple and leave this life at the same time so that neither of us are left without the other. Usually doesn't happen that way, but this is a love story that just about brought me to tears. And I thought it's worth talking about. There was an elderly couple in Ohio who have been married for 65 years. 65 years, and died 11 hours apart from one another. In the same nursing home, the daughters of the mom and dad said that they believed that their father literally willed himself to stay alive at the end because he was sick and was more sick than she was, evidently, and he just wanted to not leave her alone. He died, and 11 hours later, his wife left this life. There's a great movie out, by the way, not appropriate for small children, but it'll make you cry if you've got a romantic bone in your body, called The Notebook. I would encourage you to watch it. I have been in the ministry for a long time, and I recently came to the conclusion, a very painful conclusion, that on many occasions I had put the ministry and what I believed was my service to God ahead of my family, ahead of my wife and my children. And I wept some grievous tears and asked for forgiveness and have made proper alterations in my life. There are many of you watching right now, men and women, but especially men oftentimes, who put a business or a job, work of any kind, leisure, sports, ahead of family. And I once heard someone say, when you're at the end of your life and you're lying on your deathbed, do you think that you're going to say, "Oh, I wish I had spent more time at my job. Oh, I wish I had spent more time watching football, playing video games"? No. It'll be lying on my deathbed, you're lying on your deathbed saying, "I wish I'd spent more time with my spouse. I wish I'd spent more time with my children and my grandchildren. I wish I would have focused more on the things that matter in time and eternity." So my simple encouragement to you in the light of this wonderful love story of this couple married 65 years and dying 11 hours apart, turn off the television. Even turn this show off every once in a while if you need to. Turn off the video games and play a board game with your children or your grandchildren. Play a game that's interactive and everyone can laugh. Take a walk. Go to a park. Do and say the things that will go into the heart and soul of those children and give them memories to last a lifetime and will please our Maker, so that when we go into heaven, please God, we're not saying, I wasted my life on the wrong things, but rather, I loved God, I loved my family. God bless you.